speaks here, and he starts with the good news. Since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened for us through the curtain, that is his body. Let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Do you remember when you first came to God? Was it a stunning sudden revelation? Or was it gradual? I think for most people it is quite gradual, up to a certain point. And then suddenly you realise, yes, I am committed. I have found what I was looking for. That's faith. I was walking alongside a canal in Esher, and I was watching the swallows flying over the water, catching little insects. I couldn't see the little insects because the swallows could see them. And that play of the birds going this way and that way, never bumping into each other, catching the tiny insects that I couldn't even see. That expressed in me my wonder at God's creation. And that was the moment at which my very slow progress towards becoming a Christian coalesced, crystallised, and that's what did it for me. I mean, different things would have done it for you. It might be the word of another Christian. It might be, I know that Tom will say this, it was the word of another Christian that brought you into faith, wasn't it? Yes, it's often the case. John Bunyan, you knew I'd get him in there somewhere, don't you? John Bunyan, again, came to faith slowly and then had a sudden revelation. He began to feel disquiet because he was joining in the Sunday morning games on the green when he should have been going to church, as a lot of young men in his time did. He was known locally as the cussing tinker. And one day he was passing through the marketplace to take up his position, offering his services as a tinker, a mender of pots and pans, and copper kettles and things like that. And he passed by a group of ladies who were sitting together sewing, and they saw the cussing tinker go past. Those of you that remember Hermione, I've got 3 Hermiones in my mind's eye. They raised their voices and started to discuss meaningfully and pointedly the preacher's sermon for the previous Sunday. And he found himself unable to stop listening. And he joined their church. And in the first flush of coming to faith, he found he couldn't stop proclaiming the good news. He said he was walking through country fields and he was preaching to crows in the field. How did you feel when you first came to faith? It's very strong to begin with. Remember the parable of the seeds. It springs up. But it needs reinforcement. otherwise it withers and dies. It needs reinforcement from the companionship and support of others in the church to bring that faith to its proper fruition. Let us hold on swervingly to the hope we confess, for he who promised is faithful. If we have ever had any doubts, and who amongst us has never had any doubts? Remember, Jesus never doubts us. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. That's the companionship of the church family. Not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but in encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day approaching. But then, having given the good news, Paul now to give us a warning. We, the faithful, are now held to a higher standard. If we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left. That was under the law. But only a fearful expectation of judgment and a raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. So we're held to a higher standard. We know what's good for us, and we should do it. It's tricky, you know. I bought a box of Maltesers for both Alice and Illyria earlier this week. Alice likes Maltesers, I know Illyria does as well. And I know I can't buy a box for one and not for the other. And then Illyria had eaten her box of chocolates, Alice hadn't opened hers yet. And then Illyria is begging for some of Alice's chocolates. She eventually got the whole box. But they're in the house, Illyria said. And you know I've got no self-control. Well, not about chocolate, yeah. So sometimes we know what's good for us and we don't do it. But we can go back to Jesus. We can go back to the Lord and make it right. We need to do that. Anyone who rejected the law of Moses died without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more severely do you think someone deserves to be punished who has trampled the Son of God underfoot? But it's not our part to punish. It's our part to encourage. It's our part to offer gentle correction. For we know him who said, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay." In the King James, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And the Lord will judge his people." It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. There are awful things going on in the world. There are dreadful things going on in the world. Many people do not understand it. Many people, sad to say, in this country, have very little understanding of Christianity. They think it's all lovey-dovey. And everyone who's a Christian will be all right, they're taken care of. It doesn't quite work that way, does it? We know that our path through the world is not going to be entirely smooth. We also know that the promise of love comes with a warning of death as well. You can't have one without the other. There was a fearful crash, an aircraft, an Air India aircraft came down in Allahabad, which is in northern India. It had just taken off and it came down with a full load of fuel. Not only was all but one of the 242 people aboard, I think, killed, just one survived, but we don't even yet know how many tens, possibly more, of people were killed and wounded when it came down on the ground. It came down on a college canteen where a bunch of young people were training to be doctors, that's what they ate. It came down on that. Terrible thing to happen, isn't it? And people say, how can God, a good and kind God, allow this? And I say, God did not make the aeroplane. God did not service the aeroplane. God was not in the cockpit at the controls. This is not a perfect world. We know that it's not a perfect world. Why are people killed when they live on the side of volcanoes? Well, God did not tell them to go and live there. Why are they killed in earthquake zones? Well, the people who originally lived in earthquake zones, most of them, knew to build flimsy houses. Flimsy in the sense that if the earth shook, the house shook as well, but didn't necessarily fall down. And if it did fall down, there wasn't a tremendous weight on the people underneath the building, so most of them would be okay. Of course, then, along come people who want to build cheap, shoddy apartments. A case in point was the last big earthquake in Turkey, also previously in Greece and in Pakistan, all known earthquake zones, where these shoddy buildings are being put up, and if there's an earthquake and there's about to be, they all fall down like cars. And a concrete floor, several concrete floors, are quite unyielding. I was listening to the news, about Syria, and there is a considerable Christian population in Syria, and they have not attracted any attention from the Assad regime. They weren't that numerous a group within Syria, and the Assad regime tended to concentrate on other Muslim groups. So the Assads came from one group, there were other groups. So ironically, the Christians in Syria, under a violent and evil dictator, were left alone. But now there's been regime change, it's the current way of putting it. Now the dictator has been overthrown. More than one Muslim group are now picking on Christians and trying to forcibly convert them. Those who resist are arrested. We don't know what becomes of them. And beaten up. And their homes are set on fire. Which is why I prayed earlier for the Lord to protect people of faith everywhere. Syria has become one more country where it is unsafe to admit that you're a Christian. Persecution. Sometimes people publicly refer to insult and persecution. Have you noticed that in this country, if you blaspheme against the Muslim faith, that's a terrible thing, that's shocking. And it seems that other faiths are far more protected of their core beliefs than Christians. We're led to turn the other cheek, aren't we? And we're too polite for our own good as well. I think it is wrong to criticise, make fun of anybody's faith. And that includes Christians, quite frankly. We've got just as much right not to be abused or vilified. But it's been happening since Paul's time, hasn't it? Insult and persecution. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. He ends up with this. He's saying, our road is going to be stony. There's going to be pitfalls on the way. But stick with it. If you don't allow your faith to be eroded, if it will remain strong, which is why you need support of other people, it will be richly rewarded. Today,